I orchestrated my sister's baby shower. I never imagined she'd leverage it to publicly shame me for my miscarriage, but what transpired the following week left me reeling. It's still difficult to process. 2 months ago, Jason and I were blessed with the most incredible surprise, a positive pregnancy test. After 2 years of navigating the complexities of trying to conceive, it felt divinely orchestrated. Our path to parenthood had been riddled with obstacles. There was a previous pregnancy, yes, but it ended far too soon, in a miscarriage. That loss was a profound wound, leaving both Jason and me emotionally shattered. The healing process was slow and arduous. In the wake of that heartbreak, we decided to pause actively trying. It was a difficult decision, but the right one for our mental well-being. We chose to surrender to fate, shifting our focus to other facets of our lives, trusting in some larger design. But the universe, it seems, had a timeline of its own. 2 months back, I woke with a strange feeling. A heaviness unlike anything I'd felt before, accompanied by waves of nausea. Classic morning sickness, as they say. Initially, I brushed it off, attributing it to a random virus or something I'd eaten. But then, a tiny seed of possibility took root. Could I be pregnant? Just to be sure, I reached for a pregnancy test. When that second line appeared, the positive results stealing my breath, I was utterly stunned. Jason and I were overcome with an emotion that was hard to define, something new, a tidal wave of joy. We were smiling, tears streaming down our faces, completely immersed in the moment, just trying to take it all in. To describe the feeling, we've been walking on air, barely touching the ground. We find ourselves constantly whispering about the future, about this. It feels as though a tiny miracle has illuminated our lives in ways we couldn't have imagined. Despite the overwhelming excitement, we've chosen to keep our secret just between us for now. It's early days, after all, just 2 months, and caution feels necessary. We've endured so much already, and we need to be certain that everything is progressing smoothly before sharing this fragile joy with the world. As for family, Jason maintains no contact with his. He made the difficult decision to sever ties due to their consistently toxic behavior. I wholeheartedly support his choice. His peace of mind is paramount. My side of the family is truly the only real family we have as a couple. While they're incredibly supportive and loving, I'm still keeping our little secret close to my chest for the time being. It's not that I don't want to shout the news from the rooftops, but a tiny voice whispers caution. I just want to be completely certain before sharing such precious news, in case, heaven forbid, anything unexpected should happen later on. Another, perhaps more immediate, reason for my silence is that this week was Bonnie's baby shower. My younger sister, also expecting her first baby, is radiating pure, unadulterated joy. Seeing her excitement has been heartwarming. She's been counting down the days, meticulously planning every tiny detail with such genuine happiness. It's truly her time to shine. My parents are positively beaming, of course, as this will be their first grandchild. With everyone understandably focused on Bonnie's pregnancy, I felt like announcing my own would inadvertently steal some of her thunder. Bonnie can be a little sensitive when it comes to sharing the spotlight, and I completely understand that. She cherishes having her milestones celebrated without any distractions, and this baby shower was undeniably one of those moments. Knowing how much it meant to her, I couldn't bear the thought of unintentionally diverting attention or making her feel like her special day was somehow diminished. It was her week, plain and simple, and I wanted to fully respect that. Bonnie entrusted me with planning the entire baby shower, a significant responsibility I took very seriously. She tasked me with bringing her vision to life, ensuring everything was absolutely perfect. She inundated me with Pinterest boards, inspirational photos, and countless ideas, all showcasing the themes and decorations she envisioned. She had a clear dream for her baby shower, and I was determined to make it a reality. Planning it became a huge undertaking, demanding a lot of my time, energy, and effort. I was more than happy to do it. My only desire was to create a beautiful, memorable celebration for my sister, something she would cherish forever. On the day of the baby shower, I arrived at the venue well before anyone else, meticulously overseeing every aspect of the setup. I was running around, double-checking the decorations, carefully arranging the tables, and ensuring that no detail was overlooked. It was exhausting, yes, but knowing how much this day meant to her fueled my every move. My biggest goal was for her to walk into that venue and instantly feel like it was everything she'd ever dreamed of, brought to life. When Bonnie finally arrived and saw the venue, her reaction made all the hard work disappear. Her face lit up with absolute amazement. It was exactly as she had envisioned it, mirroring those Pinterest photos she'd shown me. She gushed about how perfect everything was, and her excitement was contagious. Seeing her so genuinely happy filled me with an overwhelming sense of pride in what I had managed to create for her. The day unfolded, and with each passing hour, guests began to trickle in, the room buzzing with a festive energy. I found myself constantly moving, making sure everyone felt comfortable and gently directing the flow of gifts to a designated corner, anticipating the moment we could all celebrate Bonnie by opening them together. Shortly after, Mom arrived, her eyes sparkling with gratitude as she pulled me aside. She whispered how much she appreciated the effort I'd poured into making this day special for Bonnie. Her words warmed me, a quiet validation that my hard work hadn't gone unnoticed by the people whose opinions mattered most. I'd also organized some light-hearted baby shower games, and soon the air was filled with laughter and good-natured competition. Everything seemed to be falling into place, the focus laser pointed on Bonnie, exactly as I'd envisioned. And then Claudia walked in. Claudia is Bonnie's best friend, practically inseparable since childhood. While Bonnie adores her, I've always felt a certain friction. In my experience, Claudia thrives on drama. She's the type who needs to have the final say, whose voice always rises in an argument, and who possesses an unwavering conviction of her own infallibility, all delivered with a theatrical flourish. Over the years, I've instinctively learned to avoid her whenever possible. Her energy leaves me feeling drained. But considering this was Bonnie's baby shower, extending an invitation to Claudia felt unavoidable. Her opening salvo upon entering was a dismissive comment about the tackiness of the theme, accompanied by a declaration that she could have orchestrated a far superior event. I bit back a retort, striving to maintain composure, and quickly glanced at Bonnie, hoping to gauge her reaction. To my relief, Bonnie simply smiled, brushing off Claudia's remark with a simple, "I'm so glad you're here." Unfortunately, Claudia's negativity didn't end there. Throughout the afternoon, she continued to pepper me with subtle, yet pointed, digs, sometimes even within earshot of other guests. She seized every opportunity to imply that my baby shower planning was somehow inadequate. It was incredibly frustrating, especially knowing how much of myself I had invested in making this day perfect for my sister. Yet, I swallowed my irritation, determined to maintain a peaceful atmosphere for Bonnie. But Claudia persisted in her needling. At one point, she sauntered up to me and, with a distinctly sarcastic tone, questioned my choice of caterer, implying I'd probably found someone off the streets rather than a reputable company. Her condescension was so blatant, it left me speechless for a moment. I calmly pointed out that the caterer I'd selected was, in fact, highly regarded and widely praised. Furthermore, everyone at the party seemed to be enjoying the food, so I genuinely didn't understand her need to criticize. Then came the truly ridiculous part. She argued that the food was too oily for her taste, all while continuing to chew a mouthful of it. That was the breaking point. I met her gaze directly and said, perhaps a bit louder than intended, "Well, if you find it so oily and unpleasant, maybe you should consider stopping eating it." I pointed out, making sure my voice carried, that I'd noticed her finishing 2 entire plates and starting on a third. If the food was truly below par, why was she so enthusiastically consuming it? Her words cut deep, silencing her instantly. She turned and walked away, face burning with anger. Later, the focus shifted, thankfully. It was time to open Bonnie's gifts, a tradition I'd eagerly anticipated. We all gathered around, a collective buzz of excitement filling the air, wondering what treasures awaited Bonnie and her soon-to-arrive little one. I felt a warmth spread through me, seeing the care and thought put into each present. The guests cooed over the miniature clothes and adorable toys, and Bonnie's face glowed with happiness, basking in the shower of love. For a precious few moments, the earlier tension seemed to dissolve, leaving only joy in its wake. But the reprieve was short-lived. Claudia, it seemed, couldn't resist the spotlight. She loudly clinked her glass, a jarring sound that sliced through the happy chatter, announcing her intention to make a speech. A knot tightened in my stomach. I braced myself, a sense of foreboding washing over me. Initially, her words seemed innocuous enough, a string of well wishes and congratulations. She spoke of her happiness for Bonnie, her eagerness to meet the baby, and the value she placed on their friendship. But then came the inevitable barb, delivered with casual cruelty. "I just wish I had been the one to throw this baby shower instead of your childless sister." The words hung in the air, heavy and stinging. Childless, tossed out like a casual insult. And why wouldn't I plan my own sister's shower? The audacity was breathtaking. I rolled my eyes, trying desperately to maintain an outward calm, but she wasn't finished. Claudia's lips curved into a self-satisfied smirk. "But you know what, Bonnie? I get why you let your sister organize all this. I mean, this is probably the closest she'll ever get to having a baby shower herself, what with her fertility issues and all." The room seemed to tilt, the noise fading into a distant hum. Time itself seemed to slow. I stared at her, a wave of disbelief washing over me. Then, a slow burn of fury began to spread. She actually said that. She let out a little giggle, her eyes locking onto mine, radiating a sickening sense of triumph. Silence descended, heavy and suffocating. I could feel the weight of uncomfortable glances, the unspoken pity and curiosity swirling around me. My face flushed, hot with shame and anger. I couldn't let it stand. "What do you mean by fertility issues?" I asked, my voice trembling slightly, betraying the turmoil within. She feigned innocence, a practiced mask of surprise. "Oh, I didn't realize it was a secret. Was I not supposed to say anything? I mean, Bonnie told me all about how you can't have a baby and how you even had a miscarriage. I just assumed everyone already knew." The saccharine sweetness in her voice only amplified the malice behind her words. It was painfully obvious, to me and probably everyone else present, that this was no innocent slip of the tongue. It was a calculated act of cruelty, a deliberate public humiliation, dragging the most vulnerable and painful part of my life into the spotlight. I pushed myself up from my chair, my body shaking with a mixture of anger and disbelief. My gaze desperately sought out Bonnie's, pleading with her, expecting her to defend me, to acknowledge the sheer cruelty of Claudia's words. But to my utter devastation, Bonnie refused to meet my eyes, turning her face away as if I was the one who had caused the offense. The silence from her was deafening. I was grateful Mom intervened, attempting to defuse the situation. She scolded Claudia, saying she shouldn't spout such nonsense, especially when drunk. But then, instead of offering me unwavering support, Mom turned to me and said, "Just let it go. It's not a big deal." I felt exposed and raw. My private struggles had been carelessly revealed, and my own sister remained silent. Is that truly how they perceive me? Hurt, anger, and profound isolation washed over me. I didn't hesitate. I gathered my belongings, my hands trembling, but I didn't care. All I wanted was escape. Grabbing my purse and jacket, I announced loudly that I was leaving and that the baby shower could proceed without me. I couldn't bear to remain in that room, surrounded by people who had witnessed my humiliation, with Claudia smugly enjoying the fallout. Both Bonnie and Mom immediately tried to stop me. Mom tried to convince me that leaving was unnecessary. Bonnie, visibly flustered, pursued me, pleading with me to stay, insisting I was overreacting and making a scene over something said in jest. She defended Claudia, claiming her best friend didn't really mean what she said. "That's just Claudia being Claudia," she insisted, dismissing it as a harmless joke. She begged me to stay, saying I was making things awkward for everyone else. I stopped and looked at her, fighting to keep my voice steady. Fine, I said, I'll stay, but only if you ask Claudia to leave. I refused to sit in the same room with her after what she just said. But instead of agreeing, Bonnie hesitated. She looked conflicted before arguing back. I can't do that, she said, almost defensively. Claudia is important to me. She's my best friend. Her words were a blow. Even after the way she just spoke to me? I asked, my voice rising with disbelief. Even after she humiliated me in front of everyone? Bonnie shrugged, as if it were insignificant. Then she said something I'll never forget. It's not like Claudia was lying, though, she stated matter-of-factly. It's true you have fertility problems. The words hung in the air, sharpened with cruelty. You did have a miscarriage. You can't have children. Why are you so upset? It's not like what she said wasn't true. A wave of nausea threatened to overwhelm me. It felt like the solid ground I stood on had crumbled away, leaving me suspended in disbelief. Are you actually serious right now? I managed to choke out. Bonnie didn't blink, didn't even seem to register the pain etched across my face. Instead, she delivered another blow. You need to stop being so insecure about it and just embrace it. It's your reality. Her words were like shards of glass, each one cutting deeper than Claudia's initial attack. This wasn't just a betrayal from her best friend. This was my own sister dismissing my pain, minimizing the heartache I'd carried, and reducing my experience to something I should passively accept. It was then, in that moment, that the devastating realization struck me. She didn't understand me at all. Not really. And, even more crushingly, she didn't seem to care how profoundly her words wounded me. Disappointment washed over me. Part of me, the wounded, furious part, yearned to unleash a torrent of words, a truth bomb that would silence both her and Claudia forever. Asterisk, I'm pregnant. I'm having a baby. Asterisk, the words vibrated on my tongue, ready to burst forth, but I swallowed them down. This wasn't the time, and these weren't the people I wanted to share my joy with, certainly not amid this toxic storm. No, they wouldn't learn about my child like this. Gathering the fragments of my composure, I took a deep, steadying breath. My voice, though calm, felt like ice as I spoke. We're done, Bonnie. My words were weighted with the finality I felt. I reminded her, perhaps cruelly, of the sacrifices I'd made for her, how I'd poured my heart and soul into planning the baby shower of her dreams, even when my own energy was depleted and my emotions frayed. I reminded her of the countless hours I had spent, fueled by my love and desire to bring her joy, only for her to repay me with public humiliation and unwavering support of Claudia's vile behavior. Before she could formulate a response, I delivered the final blow. I paid for half of the caterer's bill, but you're on your own for the rest. I won't contribute another penny. Her eyes widened in shock and disbelief. She sputtered, her voice rising in pitch as she accused me of being unfair, of abandoning her with a hefty bill. But her words were like buzzing insects, meaningless and irritating. I refused to engage. Without another word, I turned and walked away, leaving her standing there, sputtering in outrage. Since that day, my mother has been relentlessly criticizing me for being too cruel to Bonnie. She has repeatedly scolded me, suggesting alternative ways I should have handled the situation. She even revealed that Bonnie had to dip into her savings to cover the remaining catering bill after the shower, which left my mother feeling guilty. Now, she's been pressuring me to reconcile with Bonnie and even reimburse her for the outstanding amount. The guilt trip is relentless, but the raw sting of Bonnie's betrayal is far more persistent. It serves as a constant reminder that sometimes, the people you love the most can inflict the deepest wounds. Every time Mom brings up Bonnie, a familiar knot of frustration and anger tightens in my stomach. It's not just Claudia's cutting words at the baby shower that sting, but Bonnie's complete inaction. The way she brushed off my hurt as if my feelings were insignificant still burns. Why should I extend forgiveness when she hasn't even acknowledged she did anything wrong? Why should I offer her grace when she, as my sister, failed to protect me? To clarify, Bonnie didn't just want me to help with the baby shower, she expected me to foot the entire bill. Apparently, being the older sister meant automatically covering everything, a grand gesture to shower her unborn child with love and support. I had already paid half the catering costs and fully intended to cover the rest at the event. But after Bonnie's betrayal, I couldn't bring myself to spend another cent on her celebration. I was glad she was forced to pay me back the initial amount, and frankly, I wouldn't dream of returning the favor. After all, it was her baby shower. In fact, Bonnie should be grateful I'm not demanding reimbursement for all the other gifts and expenses I've lavished on her over the years. She'd probably be financially devastated if I did. Since the shower, Bonnie and Mom have launched a guilt campaign, relentlessly trying to coax me into talking to them. I've been actively dodging their calls. Thankfully, Jason saw red when he learned what happened. He was astounded and furious that I had been subjected to such disrespect, not only by Claudia, but also by my own sister and mother. He couldn't stand by and watch while I was treated that way. He tracked down Claudia on Instagram and sent her a direct message, detailing exactly what he thought of her behavior. He firmly informed her that if she had so much to say about a woman's fertility journey, particularly without any foundation, we would have no qualms about pursuing a defamation lawsuit. He made it clear he wasn't like my mother or Bonnie, content to remain silent while I was publicly humiliated. He didn't hold back, making it crystal clear that he would happily meet her in person if she had any further remarks to make. His message seemed to rattle Claudia. I guess she hadn't anticipated such a direct and honest confrontation. She responded with an apology, though it rang hollow. She attempted to excuse her actions by claiming she was heavily intoxicated and couldn't recall much of what happened. It was a flimsy excuse, and Jason and I both saw through it. Still, she did apologize, which was what I wanted initially. It's been a month since my last update, and my world has completely shifted. After the baby shower debacle, I've made the difficult but necessary decision to sever ties with my family. For weeks after the shower, Bonnie and Mom refused to let this situation die down. I had clearly articulated that I needed a genuine apology, a true acknowledgement of the pain they inflicted upon me. My mother's apology felt like a formality, a box ticked off a list. Even as she said the words, she had to add that I was partly to blame for walking out, for, in her words, humiliating Bonnie in front of everyone. It stung. My feelings, my embarrassment, seemed insignificant, as if I had somehow deserved the disrespect. Bonnie, though, offered no apology at all. She dug in her heels, claiming no responsibility for Claudia's attack on me. Not my business, she kept repeating, as if standing by while her best friend verbally assaulted me was perfectly acceptable. It was hurtful, deeply so. But then, she went even further. Bonnie demanded I pay her the remaining catering costs after I refused to pay my half. She tried to manipulate me with her baby, saying she needed the money. I refused, point blank. I had already paid my share, and after everything, I wasn't about to give in to her games. When that didn't work, she threatened me, telling me that if I didn't give her the money, I wouldn't be allowed to see her baby. Something snapped inside me at that moment. I saw, really saw, how toxic she had become, or maybe always was. I calmly told her that was fine with me. I didn't want to meet her or her child. Bonnie escalated things after that. Cryptic posts started appearing on her Instagram stories, aimed squarely at me. One read, "Family sometimes stabs you in the back," and another was something about, "Cheap people don't deserve sympathy." It was so obvious who she was talking about, and it felt like she was deliberately dragging things out. All I wanted was an acknowledgement of what happened and to move on, but Bonnie seemed determined to make it a public drama. Her posts, her words, her whole attitude screamed that she wasn't interested in resolving anything. She just wanted to paint me as the villain. So I cut her off. No more communication. Then, yesterday, after days of silence, Bonnie messaged me, completely out of the blue. She acted like nothing had ever happened. She asked if I'd be willing to babysit her baby once she had to return to work. She explained that she and her husband had discussed it, and their budget wouldn't stretch to a nanny. On top of that, our mother was refusing to help, so Bonnie was hoping I'd step in. She even said she was willing to let bygones be bygones if I agreed to babysit her child. Not a single apology, no acknowledgement of how she and Claudia had treated me, but somehow, she thought I'd just forget everything and offer to take care of her child, for the sake of family. I honestly couldn't believe it. The audacity of it all left me speechless. I am still trying to wrap my head around the fact that she thinks I am even remotely considering her proposition. After everything, every cruel word, every dismissive action, she actually expected me to become her emergency childcare? The audacity took my breath away. My reply, a simple no, felt incredibly liberating. Bonnie, predictably, didn't handle that well. My phone immediately became a war zone, flooded with her accusatory texts. She called me selfish, claimed my life was sad and lonely, and had the nerve to suggest I should be grateful for the opportunity to babysit her child, like I owed her something. What she doesn't know, what no one knows yet, is that I'm pregnant myself. It's a secret I'm guarding fiercely, a secret my own family hasn't earned. Then, Mom had to insert herself as usual. Her phone call today was a masterpiece of guilt-tripping. I needed to stop holding a grudge against Bonnie for Claudia's snide comments from who knows when. We were still sisters, Bonnie was family, so naturally I should jump at the chance to raise her child. It would help Bonnie and her husband out so much, she chirped. I hit my breaking point. The constant boundary violations, the feeling of being pressured into things I didn't want, the assumption that I'd just cave, it was suffocating. I told her, point blank, that she could step up and play nanny if she was so concerned. I wasn't obligated to anyone, especially not Bonnie's child, not after everything. But Mom, ever the martyr, kept pushing, trying to manipulate me with guilt, as always. I felt my carefully constructed calm shattering. I couldn't take another second. I snapped. I told her I needed a permanent break, a complete and utter severance from her and Bonnie's constant drama and pressure. Then I hung up. This time, I actually blocked them both. I'm done with the emotional blackmail, with being treated like some kind of doormat. They've crossed too many lines, and I refuse to let them cross another. Dad, bless his heart, has stayed out of it, but his silence isn't much support either. Honestly, I don't have the energy to even engage with him right now. All I want is peace. I crave silence. I need a detox from their toxicity, a chance to focus on myself and this tiny life growing inside me. I can only pray for my own sanity that this is enough, that they finally get the message and leave me alone. I'm completely depleted. Update 3 *, it feels like an eternity has passed since I last recorded any of this. My life took on a whole new dimension this week. I finally held my daughter in my arms, and it's a feeling that's almost impossible to put into words. Pure, unadulterated joy. My husband is just as smitten as I am. We're both completely and utterly besotted with this tiny human we created. She's the most perfect, delicate thing I've ever seen. We are so incredibly fortunate. Now, I know some might be curious about the lack of any pregnancy announcement. Honestly, with everything that's happened, with having distanced myself from most of my family, a big reveal just didn't feel right. They didn't know I was pregnant, they didn't know I had given birth, and I consciously chose not to proactively inform them. Sharing a picture of my daughter felt like the most genuine way to introduce her to the wider world, in my own way, on my own terms. The response was intense. So many messages flooded in immediately. Grandparents, distant cousins, people I hadn't heard from in years, all wanting to congratulate me, to see pictures, to meet the baby. It was a little overwhelming, yes, but beneath the initial shock, there was a warmth, a feeling that some connections, however tenuous, still held. It was a reminder that, despite everything, some people do care. Then came the call I wasn't expecting, my dad. Apparently, word had traveled through the family grapevine. He sounded stunned. He told me he was shocked to learn that I had a baby and that he was completely unaware of my pregnancy. A wave of, not anger exactly, but frustration washed over me. I pointed out that he hadn't even bothered to check in on me for months. How could he possibly have known? It wasn't as if I was intentionally trying to keep it a secret just to hurt him. The simple truth was that I haven't felt supported by my family in a long time, and therefore felt no motivation to share such a vulnerable and intimate part of my life with them. He then relayed a message, telling me that my mom, Bonnie, and other relatives were apparently upset that I'd kept the pregnancy a secret. "We're family," he said, "and I should have shared this news, no matter what." I listened, but my heart wasn't in it. He was telling me what they felt. What about what I felt? I told him that they were entitled to their feelings, but I wasn't interested in hearing about them. Their feelings were a consequence of their own actions and their conscious decision not to respect my boundaries or consider my feelings over a long period of time. The way I see it, they forfeited their right to be included in my life, at least for now. I asked him, politely but firmly, not to call again unless he had something other than Mom and Bonnie's grievances to discuss. Honestly, I'm beyond anger with them now. I'm simply done. Done with trying to be the peacemaker, the one who always bends over backwards. Becoming a mother has changed everything. My world has shrunk to fit within the circumference of my daughter's needs and her well-being. Nothing else seems to matter quite so much. My priorities have shifted completely and irrevocably. I want peace, happiness, and a safe haven for my little family, and I'm fiercely protective of that. I'm not willing to let anyone, even my own family, disrupt that peace anymore.